Hello everybody and welcome back. Thanks so much for tuning in. My name is Christian Skoggs, and have you ever noticed that Hollywood really doesn't care about musicals? Now, I know what you may be thinking. Wait, but we get musicals all the time. What are you talking about? Musicals built Hollywood up in their early years, and we even get plenty of musicals today. Films like La La Land, Greatest Showman, Frozen, and then most recently we had Wonka, The Color Purple, and Mean Girls all come out to pretty respectable box office grosses. Surely you can't expect me to believe that Hollywood has a bias against musicals, right? The thing is though, you'd be correct in these statements. Some of the most well-known films ever made are musicals. The thing is though, Hollywood assumes you don't want to watch musicals. Don't believe me? Did you watch the trailer for Mean Girls?
We as women have to be able to support each other.
Get in, loser.
How about Wonka?
Every good thing in this world started with a dream. So you hold on to yours.
How about The Lorax?
You got a beautiful town here, Ted. I can't think of any reason you'd ever want to go outside of town again.
How about Joker Folie à Deux?
I'll tell you what's changed. I'm not alone anymore.
Now, Joker 2 isn't out yet, but did you know that that movie's a musical? Yeah, because it's a musical. Surprise. The point I'm trying to make here is that all these trailers I just played you are for movies that are musicals, but despite this are all edited in a way where you wouldn't really think they were. This in turn generally tends to lead to confusion or even disappointment when people pull up to the theater and realize what kind of movie they're in store for. So why is this happening exactly? Well, let's take a look. On December 17th, 2023, Deadline published an article stating that Wonka had been a financial success in its opening weekend. During its report, they stated the following: "A great result for a musical after the genre's post-COVID funk, and the studio intentionally didn't sell Wonka as such in the trailers. Why? Apparently, test audience focus groups generally hate musicals, and the only way to get people into the theater with one is to trick them. If they get in the door and wind up enjoying themselves, then business is solid for a studio on a musical." Now, I remember when this article came out, and I was mad. Did Deadline just admit that studios willingly falsely advertise their movies so people would show up? And if this is the case, why are musicals still being made in the first place? Not to defend studios, but I will say I wish Deadline gave specific examples as to movies this perhaps happened to. I imagine though that if they did, it would probably trigger a lawsuit of some kind in which a studio is accused of deceptive advertising. Now, this has happened before. Do you remember the movie Yesterday, the Danny Boyle movie about the only guy in the world who remembers the Beatles' music? Did you know that Ana de Armas was in the trailer for that movie? Maybe you don't care that she didn't end up appearing in the final film, but 2 fans attempted to sue Universal over this. Yes, that lawsuit was eventually dismissed, and the 2 men never saw their day in court, but it goes to show that studios need to be careful about how they market their movies. When it comes to the alleged data that audiences do not like musicals, I think this is true of the audience members who they rope in for test screenings, but not necessarily the majority of the movie-going public. It's important to recognize that they literally just get anyone off the street to show up for test screenings. It's not industry professionals, or film critics, or even fans. They want the opinions of the average person because ultimately those are the people that allow a movie to gross big bucks at the box office. And I'm sure that to the average moviegoer, musicals are cringe. Yo, why is there a freaking song in this movie, man? What is this, for babies or something? I'm not a baby. Get that shit out of here. I want to see action in this movie. Why are they just talking? That's literally the mindset of the average test screening attendee. So keep that in mind. When reflecting on the most famous musicals ever made, there is an argument that they're either made for kids or women. Now, I don't believe this is true, but I do believe this is a perception the average moviegoer may have. Chances are that a late teens to early 20s guy may see that a new Willy Wonka movie is coming out and ultimately decide not to see it solely for the reason that it is a musical. These are the people that studios would like to trick into seeing their movie. Now, I believe some people out there are really stupid, but I don't think they're that stupid. When the videos were coming out of fans negatively reacting to the songs in Mean Girls, I can't help but wonder if they were reacting this way because they dislike musicals, or because they were caught off guard as to what type of movie they were in for. The Mean Girls musical ended up grossing $104.4 million at the worldwide box office against a budget of $36 million, which is a big success. I think the reason for its success were that people wanted to see a retelling of some kind to Mean Girls, which is already a wildly popular movie, but it was also a very widely loved musical before the movie came out. There was a big fan base for the Broadway version of Mean Girls, which this movie is an adaptation of, and I think they were the ones who really got people out to the screens to see it. This leads me to my next point. People actually really like musicals, and studios just need to know how to market them. Remember in school, you would always run into theater kids who made their acting pursuits their whole personality? You know exactly the kids I'm talking about, and you know exactly where I'm going with this. There are communities of fans who love Broadway musicals, or perform in their own theatrical productions. If this box office data I have on screen here doesn't do my argument justice, take a look at Waitress the musical. Now, this was a recording of the Broadway adaptation of the movie Waitress that was released into theaters as part of an exclusive Fathom Events experience. The film was originally slated to only be shown in theaters for 5 days, starting on December 7th. The film ended up being shown until December 21st though, 13 days longer than the original intended run, and it grossed $5.5 million at the box office. Now, I understand this is a small metric compared to the numbers studios are hoping for a movie like Wonka to make, but it further adds to the point that there is a demand for a musical. Broadway heads love Waitress, and the marketing team knew who to target when getting this movie out to the public. The audience was there, and they showed up. You don't even have to just look at the musical recordings coming to the big screen. What about concert recordings? The Taylor Swift Eras Tour movie grossed $261.7 million at the box office. Now, I understand Taylor Swift is one of the most highly publicized celebrities in the world, so this is sort of an exception, but people still showed up. Stop Making Sense more than doubled its original box office gross during its 2023 release, having made $6.9 million for a grand total of around $12 million. It's been successes like this that have inspired other bands to release their concert films into theaters like Beyonce, Queen, and most recently Pearl Jam. Media is a very interesting business to get started in because it's mostly unpredictable. Even when you're doing YouTube videos, you don't know which videos are going to blow up and which ones are going to flop. What I've learned from posting videos is that although you can generally get a sense of the type of videos people want to see, you never really know if something will be a success or not. I think the same applies to movies. It's good to get a sense of the data you're working with and really understand what it all means. I know studios want to market their movies to as wide an audience as possible, but I think there are better ways of going about it than lying to those people who are paying to see your movie. When you work with your filmmakers to make something really special, really figure out who would enjoy this movie the most and market your movie to that demographic. If the movie is good enough, word of mouth will spread, and that wider crowd will come in and eventually check your movie out. What's even great about marketing your musical movie is that you have services like TikTok available that you can sell your music with. Yes, it can sometimes backfire, as what happened when This Is the Thanks I Get started trending on there and everybody was basically saying how terrible it was, but just let people discover the music for themselves and figure out how to use it. Even with the bad press that song received, I'm sure it still encouraged people, even out of sheer curiosity, to check the movie out. So tell people it's a musical. It just weeds out the people who don't care for that type of stuff and excites those who do want to see it. I think the idea of Joker 2 being a musical is very exciting to people because that's not something we've ever seen before. Nobody really knows what to expect, so give people a taste of it. Let them know what they're in for. I know this movie has a hefty price tag, so the studio is already extra concerned about this one flopping, but it's for that creative nature that the previous movie had that allowed it to be such a success in the first place. So embrace it, and let people discover this movie for themselves. What do you think, though? Do you like musicals? Do you prefer to stay away from them? And what do you think of trailers hiding the fact that they're musicals away from audience members? Hope you're all doing okay out there, though, and until next time.